I don't know how you could see what's going on right now in Congress and say, wow, that looks brilliant for us, as Democrats are actively mocking them all the way. And this is damaging the image of the entire Republican Party and their ability to govern. Forced to vote. I don't know if you guys remember Forced to Vote, but Forced to Vote a few years ago was this thing being pushed by people like Jimmy Dore, Brianna Joy Gray, the Vanguard, who is right here, Kyle Kulinski, Crystal Ball, others, that Democrats should withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi in order to get a vote on Medicare for All, to raise awareness about Medicare for All, and then it could like clear a pathway for us to eventually pass Medicare for All and, you know, save the American healthcare system from its economically destitute reality, right? So I'm on record at the time, and I stand by this position, that was a terrible idea. I thought it was a terrible idea for a few reasons that I'll get into in a moment, but for whatever reason, I see the Vanguard and Jimmy Dore and Crystal Ball, Brianna Joy Gray. I saw a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. I think Glenn Greenwald too. I saw a lot of people coming out of the woodwork to try to say, wow, look at what's happening right now with the Republican Party. This proves that we were right on Forced to Vote, that we should force a vote for Medicare for All for our speakership vote for Nancy Pelosi. Now, I don't know how to put this politely, but if you look at the speakership vote that is going on right now from the Republican angle, and your conclusion is, wow, Democrats should have done that, when Republicans are currently humiliating themselves in front of the entire country, making other countries look at us and say, wow, democracy can't function. Democracy doesn't function. It breaks apart because radicals will override your institutions and stop you from functioning and being able to pass legislation or govern or you know, bring about any change, and they will you know, throw wrenches into it and stop it because democracy is too chaotic, and you're embarrassing your not only your House leadership but the entirety of your party. But even more than that, I think Lauren Boebert and the people involved are embarrassing themselves as well. Definitely Lauren Boebert, who, by the way, barely won re-election. She's really endangering her re-election chances. I don't know how you look at that situation where the Republican Party now has to go through a 7th House vote. Who knows how many it's going to go? And your conclusion is, wow, Democrats should have done that. They should have embarrassed themselves in the entire country. They should have made progressives look unproductive and unable to compromise. They should have made them look like extremists who are unable to function within a democracy, and make it so other countries look at us and say, wow, democracy doesn't function. I don't know how you see this situation, and the conclusion you take away from it is, wow, Democrats really should have done that. I think the progressives really should have done what the radicals on the right are doing right now. I think it was a terrible idea then, and I think it was a terrible idea now. Forcing a vote on Medicare for All, definitely during the time, and I would still hold this true today, would not achieve anything. It would not pass Medicare for All. It would not improve the conditions of working class people. It would not bring health care to anyone new, because the vote would fail. It wouldn't make it to the president's desk. Hell, it wouldn't even make it to the Senate. It would die in the House. And it wouldn't die by 1 or 2 votes. It wouldn't be like a party line vote. It would die by maybe like 75% of the vote in Congress. Maybe if you're lucky, I think the best case scenario was getting maybe 1 out of every 3 House people in the House to vote for it. And that assumes that every single person who pledged to vote for it would actually vote for it. And as many people who were supportive of Forced to Vote at the time noted, part of the reason you would do this would be to discover who really supports Medicare for All. But honestly, you're going to be making it more difficult for Democrats to support Medicare for All, because now you're no longer just making it a question about supporting this healthcare option or not supporting this healthcare option. Now you're making it a question about supporting this healthcare option or supporting Nancy Pelosi, the House leader who helps them get reelected through fundraising and you know, being a political ally. Now you're actually you're drawing lines in the sand, and you're going to be alienating other people in the House that you totally don't need to alienate at all. And all of this would be done, all this political capital would be spent, and the image of the progressives would be seen as people who can't govern, inexperienced people who are new to the House who can't govern. For what? Attention on Medicare for all? That what you can't get by going on radio shows or running campaigns like Bernie Sanders did? Bernie Sanders brought more attention to Medicare for all and this idea of a healthcare system than any other politician in U.S. history. And honestly, I think he probably was more productive in getting attention to Medicare for all than any force to vote advocacy would bring. And again, would the attention that these politicians would be bringing to themselves be beneficial for them long term? I don't necessarily think so. I think this could compromise AOC getting powerful committee positions, good committee positions that they would be able to actually get as concessions from Nancy Pelosi, or more realistic policy compromises that they could have gotten from Nancy Pelosi's on other issues. But instead, forced to vote, ditch higher committee positions, ditch all these other things for what is essentially a political kamikaze attack against Nancy Pelosi, drawing a line in the sand and alienating a lot of people in Congress from supporting Medicare for all and pushing them towards other things, whether it be a public option or just like building upon Obamacare endlessly, whatever it would be. And let's also be realistic here that if we I can't believe we have to revamp all these arguments. It's been, I feel a little bit almost like, come on guys, move on, you know? Like, you know, let's move on. Let's continue. Let's go to more realistic options. But we got to revamp this. Apparently, I don't know how you could see what's going on right now in Congress and say, "Wow, that looks brilliant for us." As Democrats are actively mocking them all the way, and this is damaging the image of the entire Republican Party and their ability to govern. Which, let's also say, when we're talking about their ability to govern, in 2 years, this is going to be talked about during 2024. And it's going to be like, hey, Republicans got a majority in the House and immediately they showed they couldn't govern. Do you really think these people should have the presidency as well? What if that same logic is brought to the presidency through radicals of the MAGA ideology like Donald Trump, who might be the candidate? This is things that's going to hurt them down the line. Would that have hurt us down the line in 2020 or 2022, where we were able to stump the red wave and make it a red trickle? I don't know, like the broader consequences of this strategy when we could have gotten more realistic concessions. And I believe the squad actually did get committee concessions during negotiations with Nancy Pelosi and House Democratic House leadership at the time. But also, do you guys really think that if only like at max, and we're being really generous here, 1 out of every 3 Congress people vote in favor of this, so they get 33% of the vote, that's going to be a positive image for Medicare for all? Or is the response we're going to get for anybody who brings this issue up in the future, is it going to be, wow, Medicare for all is so amazing, you know, everybody loves it, everybody supports it, it's so great? Or is it going to be, wow, Medicare for all, that's a thing that stopped the government for a bit? You know, and I'm talking to somebody who like has a family who worked in the federal government who hate people who plunge up the federal government for a while. Like they are not happy with that. I'm talking about somebody from around the DC area. Those are the people who stopped the federal government to host a vote that they then lost. We'll just look like losers. If I'm being completely honest, we'll look like losers. I don't understand why we need to expunge this much political capital doing this over other things that are actually achievable and could actually get progressives more longer-term power with committee positions over something that is tangible that we can grab right now. We're not going to do that. We're going to expend this political capital on kamikazing the Democratic Party over Medicare for all in a vote that we all know would never win anyway. And that's assuming. And like, again, we're just even talking about the House. We're not even talking about the Senate or whether it get through the president's desk. Like, we need to build up much more before we make a realistic attempt at getting Medicare for all passed in the House, if that's the end goal here. So I don't know why people would look at this situation right now in the House, where the Republicans are sabukuing themselves, Japanese style, like "Ugh!" in front of the entire country, and say, "Gosh darn it, I'm so envious of those bad boy Republicans." You know, really sticking it to McCarthy. They're sticking it to their entire party, which also does need to win re-election. If you're from a Republican perspective, you do want to win re-election eventually, right? And this is not a good image for their party. And I don't think stopping the government over a vote we know we can't win would be a good image for us as progressives, which is a very fragile coalition, a very small coalition we've built. But I don't think it would be good for our new blooming image, and I don't think it would be good for the Democratic Party generally. Because they want to be right and everyone else be wrong. I mean, you can believe that Medicare for All is correct. It's the correct position, while also acknowledging that we cannot achieve Medicare for all right now through forcing the vote, and that forcing the vote is a really risky strategy, and there's other stuff we should be spending our time doing that's more important than forcing the vote on something that isn't even going to be achieved. I feel like forcing the vote kind of feels like, I think it's the epitome of this idea of like, what type of politician do you like? I like fighters. Okay, how do you like them to fight? Aggressively. Okay, aggressively, but like through what means? Like what type of practices do they do on committee to get legislation through, or to stop maybe negative legislation for getting no we're gonna fight with the microphone in the public square. It's like, come on, man. There's a reason why Lyndon B. Johnson was such an effective legislator and is able to get so much done, and it wasn't through, well, forcing the vote in the way that they're trying to force a vote with a very small coalition that's going to honestly turn more congressmen against them than for them and for their cause.